deprive members of Social Security disability. Due to the way the credits are found out, anybody that's 27 years old or younger and anybody who's 51 years or older will automatically lose Social Security disability. At absolute best, there's 2 years of coverage if you happen to be in the very fine spot of 31 to 42 years old. After that, it'll still be less than 2 years. Regardless, after 2 years, whether you guys pull us out or if a referendum fails, after 2 years, nobody will be covered by Social Security disability regardless of their vestation, regardless of age. The other side of Social Security is Social Security survivors benefits. You have to have 6 credits within the last 3 work years. Again, due to the 3-year, 3-month refund, no member of SRS would be covered any longer by their disability. Using myself as the example, that disability payment at this time would be $1,450 per month. As far as the survivor's benefit, that would be $1,131 per month. However, there's also a cap on family size. So that would drop to $2,700 for both my wife, my 10-year-old, and my 7-year-old. Keep in mind that within this field, we have daily exposure to individuals, daily threats, and daily chances of our lives being taken. Also keep in mind that statistically, this isn't just within the job. This is things that affect us outside the job. Our suicide rates are higher also. Keeping these in mind, the only thing I ask is that you ultimately leave the decision in the hands of the people who have to bear the burden of the decision. The only people directly affected by this, in all cases, is the SRS members. Leave the decision up to them and allow them to make that decision. Doing so maintains your trust from the SRS members. It allows us to choose their own fate, and it also examples to the community at large that the board feels that they should at least give a say-so to the members that effectively direct the life decisions. If you have any questions for me, I have the basics. I have numbers that will that affect me directly. I can't speak to everybody else's, but there is generalizations that Mr. Stacy and I have talked about, such as the disability ages and things like that.
Thank you. Who else? Somebody from the department asked us to even consider this, so are they here? Somebody that's in favor? Okay. Dory, did you have anything you wanted to add? I know you were here in case we had questions or something, because Patty's not. Chris
No,
said.
I just was here to hear what
Okay.
you do, what the motion is particularly.
Okay.
Unless you have any questions specifically.
So I don't think the commission's interested in just throwing you out of a system, for sure. We think that you should have a vote. I guess I would just challenge, since there's a lot of you here that will be affected, that you make sure that you take advantage, that all of your, the people that are impacted take advantage of Mr. Kukasey's presentations to educate your members, be really honest about what it means. Don't tell people not to make decisions based on the fact that they're going to save a little money in their paycheck. I know I have a friend whose brother was a firefighter in Boston, and after he retired, you know, things happen to you, and he had nothing for disability, nothing for his wife, that kind of thing, because he hadn't paid into a system. So when we're all young, we all think we're, you know, immune to all that stuff. But okay, is there any other public comment? Sure, could you do it on the mic, please?
I actually have a couple questions. My name's Dave Conway. I'm captain with the sheriff's office. So, as I understand this, what we're discussing today is whether or not to allow the vote, or you guys just withdraw us. It's not on the table that you guys just say that we're staying in and we don't get to choose. Is that right?
Right, my understanding is because someone asked this to be considered, that we don't have that choice, but we can have Mr. Casey, can you answer that question?
Just to make sure I understand your, can you repeat again? I'm sorry,
So
just,
the issue today is we're either voting or you guys are withdrawing us. It's not that you guys can say we're staying in.
We're doing the concurrent, we're staying with that model.
that is correct. Due to the way the Social Security Act is written, you can't just coast. You have to either get the paperwork in line now that we know it's out of line, or just stop paying. Those are your options.
Is that? So you're saying that really the default is that they're out? Or they're, so we,
No, the default is status quo.
okay, that's what I'm, sorry, we would vote, so, but we do have to take a vote of to either out, or they have to vote to stay
Okay,
status quo. He's saying we can't vote to keep status quo.
That is correct, yes. What we're here today is to seek whether the commission would approve holding an additional referendum for the coverage group, which means the SRS members of the county. So at this time, we're trying to determine whether the commission wishes to give them that opportunity to then vote in their own referendum to keep concurrent Social Security coverage or not, or just say, no, we don't want to allow that option. We just want to go ahead and say, stop paying, refund them the money. Because technically it is erroneous payments at this point is how the IRS defines it.
And then I have one more question for you, because because you came and briefed us on this before, but it seems to me like the second bullet up there is an employee who chooses not to vote be counted as a no, and the no and yes votes seem backwards in my mind. So if someone doesn't vote, don't get involved, don't vote at all, and votes no, does that mean they're staying in concurrent or they're going out?
They are going out.
Okay.
A yes is to keep concurrent coverage, and I have a sample ballot if you'd like to view that today. Since it is a sample, I tend not to pass those out.
Which is another reason for all of you to make sure that your fellow folks who are in this understand that they need to be active, not passive in their actions if they
Yes.
want to stay in the system.
Absolutely, and as far as the number of days and the times and things of that nature, we've already discussed the possibility of multiple days to ensure, and doing it at shift changes, trying to do everything we absolutely can to get as many votes as possible, because maybe they truly don't want concurrent coverage, but we'd like to assure that through the actual count, not through a lack of voting.
And that is stipulated in statute that a non-vote is an exit vote, or just the ballot
I
language?
don't want to say statute because it could be Social Security Program Operations Manual or an internal procedure. I don't honestly know where that comes from.
But it's not something we can change?
Nope, absolutely not. Nope.
The ballot language is in stone.
And the non-vote being a vote is?
Yes.
Okay.
So did you get your answer then, Mr. Conley?
I did, thank you. And so now I have a second question that will play a big part in people's decisions. The Social Security tax is 12.5%, I believe. The employee pays 6.25, the employer pays 6.25. And so clearly if we were withdrawn from this, we would keep our 6.25. What about the 6.25 that the employer is paying?
That would just be, that would free up money in the general fund.
Lower taxes.
Okay?
But we don't want to make a vote to throw you out based on saving a little bit of money.
Right, right. Okay, I don't know that the members or the bargaining units would necessarily agree with that impression or opinion. I think they would view it as a unenumerated benefit that's being paid towards them, and they want to reallocate that to some other fund, such as a pre-tax IRA. but it's certainly a benefit that they are receiving at this point. And I don't know that this vote is to give up that benefit as much as it is to not invest that money into Social Security as opposed to another program.
Okay, well, then we'll make sure that they're educated on that through the process, that that's in our control, not theirs.
Okay.
And it's not part of their union deals, it's part of Fringe.
Okay. I just wanted us to be real
Yeah.
clear on it because that makes a
It's
big
good that you
difference.
bring it up so that we can make sure we're clear on that.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments before we close the hearing for public comment? All right, then I will close the hearing and we'll take action.
Right. Great questions. I think those are important things to consider. And but I agree with the comment that was made that this isn't, and with what Jean has already said, is I'm not interested in taking a vote and booting you guys without having you vote and decide your own fate. I think that's only fair. The only reason we would do that is to save a little bit of money, but in the end, the human impacts of that are not something that I'm worth voting on to boot you. So I move to allow members of the Sheriff's Retirement System to hold a referendum to vote on whether or not they want to continue to concurrently pay into Social Security insurance and into the Sheriff's Retirement System, and for staff to draft a resolution to that effect.
I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so there are deadlines, timelines, and lots of education opportunities so that people understand all of the implications. All right. So, and we are never insulted if you decide to leave and not hear about Pine Cone subdivision number 2.
Thank you.
It's right next to Pine Cone number 1.
That's what I thought.
Forest Hills Lane. All right. All right, the proponents are here.
Yeah, we have Ken and Lynn back there now.
Okay.
So, should be good to go. Casey Drayton, planner with CAPS, here to present the Pine Cone Crest number 2 minor subdivision. This is a subdivision request actually in the original Pine Cone Crest subdivision, not just next to it.
Right. So I guess I should officially open the subdivision, so,
Sure.
or the hearing, so that all this is in the minutes. Thanks.
The applicant and property owner here is Mark Idy, and he is represented by Montana Northwest Company. We have Ken and Lynn here with us today. The project location is in the Pine Cone Crest subdivision, as I've mentioned, located off Forest Hill Lane. This is generally out in the Blue Mountain area of Missoula County. Access to this property would be off of Blue Mountain Road to Forest Hill Lane, traveling south just before you hit the terminus of Forest Hill Lane there. The property would be up on the right-hand side if you were driving south down the road. As mentioned, within the original Pine Cone Crest subdivision, this was a 3-lot minor subdivision that came through some time ago. This was lot number 3. This plat map here has north to the right-hand side of the screen, so that's why it looks a little different than what we saw before. But we are on lot number 3, which is 3.64 acres. Looking at the existing conditions of the property, we have one single-family dwelling situated all the way at the southwest corner of the property. The driveway comes in from that little leg that sticks off the property down there. The rest of the property is vacant with kind of a scattered tree and natural grass cover. You can see surrounding development in the area is primarily single-family residential, and then we do have some public land, national forest land off to the west there as part of the Blue Mountain Recreation Area. As mentioned, kind of a scattered tree cover, not a lot of undergrowth in there, but there is some native grasses. These pictures will show it. The picture on the left, you can see the existing home is tucked back in there. If you have a good look at it, the photo on the right would be a proposed new home site within the subdivision located to the north. These other two photos show just some different perspectives on it. The one on the left would be where this approximate new property line would go for the 2-lot split. The photo on the right shows Forest Hill Lane kind of climbing uphill. This somewhere right about where that snowpack is, I would anticipate you would see a new driveway going in for a proposed home site. Looking at the growth policy and zoning applicable to this property, we're in the 1998 Urban Comprehensive Plan area with a recommendation for residential development at 2 dwelling units per acre. And we're within citizen-initiated zoning district 18. We're right on the fringe of that. Primarily moves back to the east then. We have some CA1, standard county zoning, large tract, agricultural, residential, over top of the Blue Mountain Recreation Area just to the west. The proposal in front of us, as I mentioned, is for a 2-lot split, a minor subdivision. The existing home it would be on the south tract. Lot 3A is how it would be renamed on this plat for Pinecone Crest number 2. The existing house is hatched over with red, just to clarify it a little bit. I know there's a lot going on here. And I do have some closer shots of each lot individually here in just a moment. Lot 3B would be the new proposed lot. This is a 1.36 acre lot with a proposed home location showing out there to the north. This does show, this is the closer view of the existing house with the driveway showing, wrapping all the way down the property line out to Forest Hill Lane. You can see on the plat there are a handful of areas hatched out for areas of no build zone, so slopes over 25% on the property. Proposed well locations, one item of note while we're here is that the proposed well for lot 3B is located on lot 3A, so they've proposed a 20-foot utility easement to gain access to that well from the new lot. And you can see that here, the proposed house with the water line running down to that well at the bottom of the screen there. The new driveway for this proposed home, again, wraps up pretty similar to the existing driveway. Will be cut into the hillside quite a bit to climb up there, as there is quite a bit of grade on the property that you can see from the contours dropping down to Forest Hill Lane. Looking into some of our review criteria for this subdivision, we found that it is compliant with the zoning and the growth policy. Zoning District 18 permits residential single-family dwellings and accessory buildings as a primary permitted use. The density complies with zoning district 18, and any new development on lot 3B would be reviewed for zoning compliance at time of building permit submittal. Looking at the comprehensive plan, it identifies a need for a variety of housing densities as part of the larger goal to enhance human resources in Missoula County. That plan further breaks down residential density into a few different categories, hitting the 2 dwelling units per acre in an area where there is some level of service, but maybe not municipal water and sewer services available, which are not here. So it recommends 2 dwelling units per acre as kind of a mid-tier recommendation. Looking at agriculture and agricultural water user facilities, there's not a whole lot of concern here due to the location. Agriculture is absent from the site. Soils are not considered prime farmland. Land uses adjacent to this parcel are residential on 3 sides and public land, Blue Mountain Recreation Area off to the west. So it's not likely that it would ever be farmed as part of a larger agricultural enterprise. And there's no ag water user facilities associated with this property. Looking into the local services aspect, Forest Hill Road is a county-maintained public road which serves the subdivision. No new roads are proposed, basically pulling 2 driveways off Forest Hill Lane, which would require approach permit approval from Missoula County Public Works. It's within the air stagnation zone, so any new access that's proposed would need to be paved as a mitigation effort. That requirement is established in the covenants proposed for the subdivision. Pedestrian facilities are not proposed along Forest Hill Lane or required per subdivision regulations. We look at water and sanitation. Lot 3A has an existing well that was installed in 2003, and a new well is proposed pending DEQ approval for Lot 3B. As I mentioned, that new Lot 3B well would actually be located on Lot 3A. However, they have designated an easement to access that for the future property owner. Condition of approval requires some language on the plat for that access easement just to ensure that it meets county subdivision regulations. Testing of the well serving Lot 3A is showing water quality levels and flows that meet or exceed DEQ minimum standards. No public water supplies within 500 feet of the subdivision, so there's no need to connect anything there. So they would be standalone units. The water use proposed would be exempt from DNRC water right permitting based on the use amounts that they're proposing. For 2 residential dwellings and associated domestic irrigation, DNRC does not expect it to exceed the 10 acre-feet per year to stay under that combined appropriation. An adjacent property owner has expressed concern over the water quantity and quality in the area. That letter is included as an attachment to the staff report. The adjacent owner cites neighbors' experience with wells going dry, a nearby basin closure, and other development near Blue Mountain Road as a cause for concern to the aquifer in this area. CAP staff feels that the information presented by Montana Northwest Company as part of this application adequately addresses the water quantity and quality, and ultimately it comes down to a DEQ review and approval of that information there. Lot 3A has an existing permitted private septic system. Lot 3B is proposed to construct a new pressure-dosed septic system in accordance with DEQ and Missoula County Health Department regulations to serve the new dwelling. No public sewer systems available within 500 feet of the subdivision either. And the County Health Department and Missoula Valley Water Quality District have commented on the high nitrates found in the area. It seems to be a pretty commonly known fact that that's been an issue out there in the past. The Health Department noted that the subdivision is currently going through sanitation and subdivision review, and the nitrates will need to be addressed with that review. Solid waste is not a concern with this subdivision. It's located within the Republic Services area of service. No parkland dedication is proposed for the subdivision. No trails are proposed either. There's a large network of trails located adjacent to the subdivision with the Blue Mountain Recreation Area, which would provide ample recreational opportunities for any new property owners here. We don't anticipate any impact to the school districts associated with this subdivision with one additional residential dwelling. Looking into the fire aspect, the property does lie adjacent to large tracts of national forest land, so there is some concern over wildland fire here. The subdivision is located on a road with only one access in and out. The 2005 Missoula County Community Wildfire Protection Plan, as well as the 2018 Missoula County Community Wildfire Protection Plan draft, identify the subdivision location within the wildland-urban interface. With that, the applicant has completed a fire hazard assessment for the subdivision. Indicated on that assessment are Class A fire-rated roofing materials and non-combustible siding materials to be used on any new structures. The covenants include a provision that requires that Class A roofing material as well as non-combustible siding materials for new structures as they've been presented in the application. The covenants also reference publication to enlighten any new homeowners on fire hazard and methods by which risk can be mitigated. One condition of approval related to fire requires the covenants be modified to include a statement to notify future lot owners that the subdivision is located within a wildfire hazard area. And that comes out of Missoula County subdivision regulations. And Missoula Rural Fire District is the fire jurisdiction serving the property. They feel they'd be able to provide adequate service here. Residential fire sprinklers are a chosen water supply for fire suppression for any new development on the property. The covenant language to notify future lot owners of the requirement for fire sprinklers is adequate for the Missoula Rural Fire District. And a condition of approval requires notification to be placed on the face of the plat for the fire sprinkler requirement, as well as the Class A fire-rated roofing materials and non-combustible siding materials. In terms of fire department access to each structure, proposed driveways could exceed 150 feet in length, which would require an approved turnaround facility. A provision in the covenants notifies homeowners of that requirement as well. And looking at law enforcement services, we feel that they'll be available to the subdivision in a manner consistent with its distance from services and ease of access. The Sheriff's Department provided no comment on the subdivision. Looking at the natural environment, wildlife, and wildlife habitat, the site's located at the fringe of a developed area, serving as a transition zone between national forest land and residential development. With the lot sloping towards Forest Hill Lane, undeveloped portions will host native grasses and mature ponderosa pine trees that we currently see on the site. With approximately 1 acre lots, we feel that there's enough spacing between homes on this to allow some wildlife to migrate or potential habitat sites to remain if there are any on the property between the two dwellings. We don't feel that'll have any effect necessarily on the natural environment or any severe impacts on any sort of wildlife or wildlife habitat concerns here. A weed management plan has been presented with the covenants and will be required as a final plat checklist item just to ensure that that's been signed off by the county weed district before the final plat goes through for any development-related disturbance that might occur on the property. There's no floodplain associated with this subdivision. As mentioned, there are areas of steep slopes that have been designated on the preliminary plat as no build zone. A condition of approval requires those to show up. As indicated in bearings and distances on the final plat and labeled as no build zones to restrict any development on those. Looking at compliance with survey requirements, subdivision regulations and review procedures, provisions of easements for utilities, and legal and physical access, we feel that this subdivision proposal complies with all of those. Preliminary plat survey requirements have been met. The rest will be satisfied with the final plat. The subdivision regulations have been followed, as well as the review procedures established therein. Necessary easements have been granted for utilities, most of which lie out in the already platted Forest Hill Lane. There would be then adequate access to get utilities up to each individual home on this property. And legal and physical access is provided by the public county maintained Forest Hill Lane. With that, staff is recommending approval of the Pinecone Crest No. 2 subdivision subject to the recommended conditions of approval found in the staff report. And that concludes my report. I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
I have two.
Sure.
A couple. So the plat that you were showing that was presented says unzoned all over it. It should say zoning district 18, right?
That's correct.
Oh, it says unzoned right there.
Oh, up at the top left
Warreneth
there.
Acres unzoned. So maybe it was unzoned when Warreneth Acres was done.
Yeah, that's likely. It should reflect zoning district 18 over all this, and that could be added pretty quickly here as a condition of approval to have that corrected on the final plat, if that would even,
And Ken can talk about
I don't know if that would
plat.
even show up on the final plat. Usually the zoning designation is maybe noted on the side of it, but
Well,
not
it does say
necessarily.
unzoned here on 3A too, so, I mean,
Okay,
it just needs to be off of there.
yeah,
because
correct.
there's a-
Yep.
And then the other is that, because it's in the air stagnation zone, it said required roads to be paved. Does the driveway have to be paved?
That would be
Back 20
reviewed,
feet or something.
yeah, and that would be reviewed by the air quality district. I don't, if it's between 20 feet and all the way, I'm not sure, but the covenants they've proposed, I can double check the language to see if it says roads or driveways in there real quickly for you, just to clarify.
And then, I know we require well permits in Missoula County, and do we allow them to be on someone else's property? I mean,
It can be
we encourage
located
them
off-site
to
so
be-
long as they have adequate easements to access that. And considering it's on-site within the subdivision as a whole, it's less of a concern. We'd definitely take a harder look at it if it was located off-site, so say on somebody else's property entirely.
Okay. Mr. Jenkins, would you like to present?
Ken Jenkins with Montana Northwest Company. I really don't have much to add. Thank you, Casey. That was very thorough. The review process, I think, has been thoughtful and straightforward, and I appreciate that. And we are in agreement with the conditions. So if you have questions, I'd be happy. The zoning, I want to call that a scrivener's error or something. I don't know where that came from, but we don't typically show zoning designations on the final plat, so that will go away.
Okay. I just wondered that since it was in a citizen initiated, sometimes their more strict, but whether you want it on there, but it just shouldn't say unzoned is all. Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there any other public comment? So the one piece you referred to it some, Casey, in your presentation, but we do have the one letter from a neighbor that was concerned about water. But it seems like the well logs and everything else says there's adequate water without impacting the neighbors.
The information they've provided to us, yes, shows that it should be suitable for approval under DEQ standards.
And did you find whether the driveway has to be paved?
Sure. So in the covenants, which are found in section 9 of this subdivision application, provision number 4 in there is roads, driveway, approach, and setbacks. All approaches will be paved and constructed per Missoula County Road Department requirements. So basically, it would turn it over to, at time of building permit, they would review to determine whether or not just the approach or the full driveway would need to be paved.
I think they usually do the approach just so that you aren't taking gravel right onto the.
Yeah, and I apologize, I don't know those air stagnation zone requirements off the top of my head, so I can't tell you whether or not it would need to go all the way within the zone or not.
I don't think we needed to amend anything. Did you have any questions? All right. So we can either go to page 13 or your simple. There we go. Any other public comment? I'll close the hearing.
Thanks, Casey. That was straightforward and thorough. So I would move that Pinecone Crest number 2 subdivision be approved based on the findings of fact in the staff report and subject to the recommended conditions of approval.
I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I like this one. This is a short day. All right, is there any other business to come before the commission? Seeing none, we're in recess.